unfamiliar with Ramayana?
In a sense of like never heard
Could you say the screaming was a little louder than your voice?
I've never like heard from the Ramayana. I know of the Ramayana, but I don't really hear from it that often.
Okay. This is about Ramayana. There's a particular feature of Ramayana. Just back up. Let's do this. Do you know any Brahma Samhita verses? You know one. Which one you know? The first one. What's the first one? Ishvara Parama Krishna? So Krishna is the Karana. He's the Karanam of all Karanas. He's the cause of all causes. There's the plural, Karanam, and he's the cause of the plural causes. So he's behind everything. So in Brahma Samhita, there's two main parts. Part 1 and Part 2. And Part 2 is a series of prayers, the Govinda prayers. At least that's how we commonly call them in ISKCON. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. You know any of those? So in the Govinda prayers, what do you want me to do?
No, it was a little far away from the...
You want me to move it closer?
A little, yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, that's all.
That's better, huh? Okay, great. We'll increase the crowd. Golokanamni nijadamni tale chatasya Devi Maheshu Haridama Suteshu Teshu Te Te Prabhava Nihatasvi Hataschayena Govindamadi Purushottama Hamaham Bhajami. That's one of the verses where the hierarchy of the structure of our universe and beyond the universe is described. It starts with Goloka. Goloka is the planet of Krishna. Goloka Nami, the name of the planet of Krishna is Goloka. Goloka Nami. Nija Dhamni, it's his own Dham. Nija means his own. Goloka Nami, Nija Dhamni, Tale, it's a place. Tale Chatasya. Then the next line, going up. Devi, Devi Dham. That's where we are. Devi Dham. Devi Maheshu, Mahesh Dham is above Devi Dham. Devi Maheshu Hari Dhama. Hari Dham is Vaikuntha. Devi Dham, Mahesh Dham, Vaikuntha Dham. And above them, Goloka Dham. So Lord Ramachandra descended from the region known as Haridham, or the Vaikuntha realm. Some of you have seen that poster that depicts this particular verse and other details from the Govinda prayers. So if you look closely at that poster, it goes like this. I'm just keeping it simple. I'm trying to give a background for people that don't know Ramayana. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Devi Dham, that's this place. And then within Devi Dham there's a universe, and that has coverings of the universe. And those universes are floating like footballs, floating on what? They're floating on the causal ocean. On the other side of the coverings of the universe is the causal ocean. And the Maheshdam is in that region. And then above Maheshdam begins the spiritual sky, the Brahmajyoti. Keep going. Within that spiritual sky, Brahmajyoti, there's Vaikuntha planets. And if you look at that poster carefully, next time you get a chance, look at the poster carefully, and way at the very top of Vaikuntha realm is Ayodhya. What's Ayodhya? Ayodhya is the realm of Lord Ramachandra in the spiritual sky. It's at the topmost portion of Vaikuntha. Topmost portion meaning not just like, vertical, but spiritual. Spiritual in the sense that within Ayodhya, within Ramachandra's realm, it's just below Goloka, but it's still within Haridam, and it's at the top because there's closer varieties of loving dealings. For example, in Vaikuntha, does Lord Narayan have a mother and father? In Ayodhya, does Ramachandra have a mother and father?
Yes.
Yes. In Vaikuntha, does Lord Narayan have brothers? No. In Ramachandra's abode, does he have brothers? Yes. Etc. There's varieties of loving dealings, loving relationships that exist still in Haridam, but it's not the fullness that exists in Golokadam, but it's above the Vaikuntha planets. It's within the region of the Vaikuntha planets, but it's the topmost. Because there's a kind of sweetness. Madhurya, you know that word. Madhurya means sweetness. Like madhu means honey. Bees like honey. So Madhurya is a feature of Lord Ramachandra's realm, because there's sweetness of loving exchanges. And when he appears in this world, he exhibits that sweetness of loving exchanges. It's very attractive. It's one of the charms of Ramayana, is the loving exchanges are very, very sweet. At the same time, he's teaching virtue. One of the benefits of in cultures that like Ramayana, become familiar with Ramayana, hear it regularly, absorb themselves in Ramayana, it builds character, because Ramchandra is the person of ideal character. And he always does and never does anything outside of ideal character. And so there's one of the terms that Lord Ramachandra is known by is this one, Maryada Purushottama. That's our topic for this evening. You know what Purushottama means. You know what Purusha means. It means person. And Uttama means topmost. So the Supreme Lord is Purushottama because he's the topmost person. And then there's the adjective Maryada, means he's the topmost person who strictly follows Vedic rules and regulations and never transgresses them. It's like, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. He always follows, he never transgresses. So what I plan to do this evening is to address, there are this evening two apparent transgressions. Apparent. It's not real transgression. And so I'm going to take on the controversy. It's not really a controversy. Some people ask, hey, wait a minute. He's Maryada Purushottama, but didn't he transgress this or that or the other thing or the other thing? So, one of those apparent transgressions, here it is on the screen, did Sri Ram become king after 14 years of exile to the forest. When he became king, did that violate his own promise to his father, Dasarath, or Dasarath's instructions to him? Because either a promise or an instruction being violated is a transgression. So didn't he transgress? Did Ram actually promise to never rule the kingdom with the explicit declaration that Bharata should be crowned the king, not Ram? Does Kaikeyi's asking for Bharata to be crowned the prince regent automatically imply that Bharata should be the king forever? So those of you not familiar with Ramayana, I have to do a little background. First of all, let us remember that Lord Ramachandra is not just a fellow, like a good person. He is the personality of God who is descending into this world to perform pastimes and to teach us through his pastimes. So he appeared as one of four brothers, the eldest of four brothers, and according to Vedic culture, the eldest brother, the eldest son of the king becomes the next king. It's just the law. It's a law. And so he was to become the king. And then Dasarath, his father, became a little anxious. It's a long story, but he became a little anxious. Who knows what might happen? It's an auspicious day coming. Ram should be crowned Prince Regent. He went to his royal assembly. He asked them, is this something that you would like to see happen? Oh, yes. Let Ram become Prince Regent. So plans were made for Ram to become the next day. So big doings. City's all excited, except for one person. The action spoiler, the bad lady. So Dasarath had more than one queen. And one of those queens was named, as you see here, Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi had desire that her son, I won't go through the whole intrigue, but she had the desire that her son should become the king. At that particular time, her son was visiting her father, so Bharat's maternal grandfather. He was out of town, visiting his grandfather's kingdom, and paying respects and doing what people that are social and have good relationships do. They were respecting one another and so forth and so on. He's out of town. So, as you see, Kaikeyi, she had a hunchback lady who was her assistant or servant, Manthara. Manthara poisoned Kaikeyi's mind into thinking that this is a plot against your son. Who knows what's going to happen when your son comes back? Ram may murder him, and but she was effective. Kaikeyi was innocent and a little, emotional, and she swayed her emotions over to thinking this is a trick to get rid of my son, to do bad stuff for my son without all of what was said. So what to do? And Mantra said, you silly woman, you should know what to do, but since you don't know what to do, I'll tell you what to do. Here's what to do. Do you remember long ago when Dasarath, your husband, was on a battlefield and he was wounded, and you bravely came out onto the battlefield, removed him from the battlefield, nursed his wounds, brought him back to life, and he made a promise to you. What was that promise? You asked for two things, and whatever it is, it's yours. Remember that? Kaikeyi, you remember that? Yes, I remember that. Now is the time to ask. You go to Dasrath, and when Dasrath comes to see you in the morning, you tell him I want those 2 boons. And here's what the 2 boons you should ask for. 1, Ram goes to the forest for 14 years. And your son, second, your son Bharat should be made the Prince Regent, not Ram. Ram's going to the forest, and Bharat's going to be the Prince Regent. Prince Regent means like it's like engagement or something like that. It's like the step before becoming the king. So that's what happened. And it's like chaos in Ayodhya. Ram immediately accepted. Forest 14 years, no problem. Father, all your word is, your wish is my command. My life is everything, simply fulfilling your order. Why are you worried about how I'm going to respond? I'll leave today. Immediately. So he left. So now, when he came back 14 years later, he became the king. So some people ask, wait a minute, didn't he make a pledge that he wouldn't become king? Didn't his father ask him, you don't become the king? And Bharat will become the Prince Regent instead of you? And if all that happened, then isn't he in violation of proper conduct? That's the question. And here's the answer. From Valmiki Ramayana, Ram obediently accepted the order to spend 14 years in the forest. However, he did not make a promise to never ascend to the throne, nor was that request made of him. You want to discuss already?
I have a question.
Okay.
Also, wasn't there a promise that Dasharatha made to Kaikeyi's father when he married her, saying that her son would become the king once she has a son, and the son becomes a king?
I don't know about that. I don't know anything about that. I do know that with the law, it's more than custom, it's law. The eldest son. So the 4 brothers were born one day apart. And Bharat wasn't the first one born. And it's a law. So I'll find out. But how can you make a promise? It would violate the law. I promise your son will become your daughter's going to become the king, when there's a law that says the firstborn son is the king. I doubt it, but I'll check.
This was before when
But how would he make a promise before when it would be in violation of the law if her son wasn't the firstborn?
I mean, he was also it was said that he was also pretty desperate for a son as well.
Well, whatever he might have been, he's not going to make a promise that breaks the law. That's not Dasarath. Nor is it wrong. But I'll check. I don't know how to get back to you, but I'll tell. See this fellow over here, Mahamantra? I'll let him know what I find out, because I can. It's not too difficult to find out, and I'll let him know, and he'll let you know. So let's go back.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. You see, there's a big number 1 up in the right-hand corner. So this one of the. Wait a minute. Wasn't there a transgression of law and etiquette? So the answer is no, it wasn't. In fact, the ceremony for Bharata becoming Prince Regent never happened because he refused. There's a nice example. Some of you like history. Do you like history? Something quite similar happened when the father, Parjanya, had 5 sons, and the eldest of the 5 sons was Upananda, and the third of the 5 sons was Nanda. So when Parjanya passed on the kingdom to the eldest son, Upananda, he said, fantastic, I give the kingdom to Nanda. because he's the qualified one. Just like that. It wasn't the eldest because the eldest deferred to the middle one. In this case also, Bharata is deferring to Ram. He wouldn't accept the throne. He deferred the throne to Ram because he should be everyone knows, and he's the eldest son, and I serve him, and he's not going to, I'm not going to be the king. So that's that one. There was not a violation of righteousness. Now we're going to go on to the next one. And the next one has to do with this. Those of you not familiar with Ramayana, we're going to go through the history, the story, in some nice pictures and things. But at a certain point in time, Ramachandra, with his bow and arrow, killed Vali, hiding behind trees, when Vali had done nothing directly to Lord Ramachandra to cause his being killed. There wasn't a violation that gives death penalty against Ramachandra. So persons sometimes ask, why is he hiding behind a tree to kill Vali? That doesn't sound right. It's a violation of Dharma, a violation of righteous conduct. So how we can say he's Maryada Purushottama if he's doing that? That's the doubt. Got it? Okay, I'm taking a deep breath. And I'm going to go forward with saying, first of all, some of you like reading Prabhupada's books, I'm sure. And there's a reference to Sita's being kidnapped by Ravana, which is from Ramayana, but it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita this way. Madhya Lila, it's without the context from Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a verse. When Ravana came to kidnap Mother Sita, and she saw him, she took shelter of the fire god Agni. The fire god covered the body of Mother Sita, and in this way she was protected from the hands of Ravana. So who did Ravana kidnap? It was a shadow Sita, or a false Sita, or a Maya Sita, not Sita. Because real Sita took shelter of Agni, and Agni gave her protection. Commentary, not within Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, Agni placed Sita in the care of Parvati. Who's Parvati? The wife of Lord Shiva. Agni gave the care of Sita to Parvati until the time came for Sita to be reunited with Ram. So this is, you see where it's from, Madhya Lila chapter 9, and even going back a little bit further in Madhya Lila, it says, at Rameshwara, that's a place, the farthest south in India you can go. You can't go any further. It's a peninsula into the ocean. So it's the furthest south you can go. So Lord Chaitanya went there, and he had a chance to read the Kurma Purana, in which he discovered that the form of Sita kidnapped by Ravana was not that of the real Sita, but a mere shadow representation. That's from Kurma Purana. And the Prabhupada's purport reads, this shadowy Sita was placed into a fire as a test of chastity. It was Maya Sita who entered the fire, the one that was not the real Sita, because real Sita was with Agni. So when the Maya Sita entered into the fire, the real Sita was given by Agni to Lord Ramachandra. Here she is. So it's a long story, and I don't have time to tell the whole Ramayana story this evening. But Sita's purity and chastity was examined by the test of fire, and here comes Agni carrying Sita, and she survived the test of fire. So everyone understood, the world understood, she's pure and never contaminated by contact with Ravana. However, the Maya Sita was kidnapped by Ravana. Or we can say Sita was kidnapped by Ravana. We don't have to always say the Maya Sita. So, Ravana was a bad guy. And not only is a bad guy, he was incredibly lusty. Sometimes goes along with being a bad guy. Certainly for him, in his case. And he had raped various ladies along the course of his, exploits. And he had curses that he would die because of that, and so forth and so on. Ravana wanted Sita because he had heard of her unparalleled beauty, and so he was too lusty. He had to somehow get Sita. So he made a plan. It's a long description. Made short is, one of his assistants was Maricha. Maricha was a mystic yogi, and Maricha was also a demon, but he had already previously, many years earlier, he had an encounter with Lord Ramachandra, and he was hit by an arrow fired by Lord Ramachandra, and that arrow carried him thousands of miles into the sea, and somehow he survived, but he was very afraid of Ramachandra's power, and he warned. So Ravana went to his friend Maricha saying, "Help me, I want Sita." And Maricha said, he turned pale and said, "Don't do this. You have no idea. Let me tell you how powerful is Ram." And on and on and on, and how powerful is Ram. This is a big mistake. Don't try to get Sita and take Sita away from Ram. Don't do that, please. So he thought about it, came back later and said, "I want Sita, and I want your help. And if you don't help me, I'll kill you. Here's my plan. You have mystic powers. You can transform yourself into any shape you like. He's a nice boy. Nice boys like to have fun. So, Maricha was persuaded by thinking, better to be killed by Ram than be killed by you. It'll be glorious if I'm killed by Ram. So the plan was, change your shape into a golden deer that's rainbow-like and keeps changing colors, and Ram will want to capture, Sita will want to capture the deer, and you lure him into the forest, and when he fires an arrow and kills you, you call out very loudly in a voice that sounds like his voice, because that was one of his powers. He could sound like somebody else. Lakshman, Sita, help! Again, Lakshman, Sita, help! And Sita heard. And she turned to Lakshman. Did you hear that? Yes. Well, why are you sitting here? Go and help. Ram said, stay by your side. When he went to get the deer, you stay. That was my order. You stay and protect Sita. Don't leave under any circumstance. I'm not leaving. And she started insulting him. What? Now I understand. For 12 years, you've been patiently serving Ram when your real interest was lusty desire to try to exploit me. Never will you touch me. Never, never will you touch me. Get away from me. You go get Ram. And if you don't get Ram, I'll take my own life. And she said many wicked things, mean, because she wanted him to go help Ram. And he knew better. But he went. He got bewildered by Sita's threatening to take her life and the insults that she made. Really bad.
I need water.
And we're going to hear about that tomorrow, the insults. It's like really heavy. So he went, and when he went, Ravana came disguised as a Brahmana, Sita being a gentle, refined, cultured princess. She wanted to serve him, and he grabbed her and tried to kidnap her. So what happened was, Ravana had mystic powers too, and he flew away with Sita. And meanwhile, so here's the image where Lakshman, following the urgent appeal of Sita to find Ram, he finds Ram, and Ram is saying, Lakshman, you were supposed to stay and guard Sita. You know, this is a terrible forest and wild animals and rakshasas, and why did you leave? Look at poor Lakshman, looking at the ground. You don't know what she said to me. Repeats what she said, but you know better. You had an instruction. Let's go back immediately and see if Sita is all right. They went back, and not only was Sita not all right, but she wasn't even there. So they searched the empty cottage. You see in the painting, over on the upper left, that's the chariot of Ravana that got smashed by Jatayu. That white bird there is supposed to, I think, be Jatayu. They saw the remains of the broken chariot. Later they find Jatayu, we'll see. And over in the lower left, that's Ram. Looks like he's scratching the chin of the deer. But he killed the deer. And so Ram is devastated. Sita's gone. See these broken ornaments on the ground, and who knows where she's gone. Lakshman, how could you do this? Sita's in danger. So that then comes an emotion, transcendental emotion of love and separation. Those of you that have been around for a while, you know about love and separation. Krishna and the gopis and love and separation. So this is Sita being separated from Ram, which is not possible. Can you separate the sunshine from the sun? Not possible. But it's a Leela, and they're separated, and he's going literally mad, searching for Sita. Why has this happened? Oh, Sita, and so forth. There's Lakshman looking for the tracks to see which direction they went. There's a long emotional section describing the feelings of love and separation. And they start heading in a direction where they finally find Jatayu. So who's Jatayu? For those of you not familiar with Ramayana, Jatayu was a celestial being that had a brother, and he and his brother were in the form of vultures, but they had the consciousness of elevated celestial beings. And Jatayu had a friendship with Ram's father, and Ram knew because Jatayu was around. So there's details and details, which I think I'll just read a little bit because I have it printed, and especially those of you that don't know Ramayana so well, it's nice to hear what it's like. So as they're looking and looking and looking at a distance, Ram sees this creature, and he thinks, uh-oh, maybe this is another Rakshasa trick. So he gets his bow and arrows ready for battle. I'm just going to read so you get the flavor. The two princes continued to walk south, discussing what to do. Soon they came upon Jatayu lying upon the ground. Seeing from a distance the mountainous bird drenched in blood, Ram exclaimed, "Lakshman, here's a Rakshasa in the guise of a bird. Surely this beast has devoured Sita. I shall make short work of it with my fiery arrows." Ram fitted a razor-headed arrow to his bow and bounded toward Jatayu, but as soon as he recognized the great bird, he lowered his weapon. Jatayu, close to death, saw Ram coming and raised his head. Vomiting blood, he spoke in a strained voice, "Oh, Ram, the godly Sita, and indeed my life have both been snatched away by Ravana. I flew to her assistance and fought with the demon. Although I smashed his chariot and killed his horses, I was finally cut down by him." Jatayu then described what had taken place. Upon hearing his story, Ram fell, weeping, to the ground and embraced Jatayu. That's what you see here. And stroked his head. In great pain, Ram cried out, "Alas! Who is more unfortunate than I? My sovereignty is lost. I am exiled. My wife is stolen. And now my father's friend lies mortally wounded, having tried his best to help me." Ram questioned Jatayu, "Where did Ravana take Sita? What did she say as she was being dragged away? How powerful was the Rakshasa? And where was his abode?" Ram spoke wildly. In a tearful voice, Jatayu looked at him fondly. Speaking in barely a whisper, he replied, "The demon conjured up a storm as he flew into the sky. As I contended with him, I soon became exhausted, being old and worn out. He then lopped off my wings. He sped away with his face pointing south." So now he knows which direction to go. The bird lay gasping. He reassured Ram that Sita would soon be found. The Rakshasa had kidnapped her at an hour which was favorable for her return. Although he knew it not, Jatayu said, it was the Vinda hour. According to scripture, a treasure lost during that time is again recovered. So if you're going to lose something, lose it during the Vinda hour. I don't know what it is, so don't ask me. Jatayu told Ram that Ravana was the son of the sage Vishrava and the half-brother of Kuvera. Kuvera is the treasure of heaven. Although he was immensely powerful, Ram would soon slay him. Jatayu was sure of it. As the bird spoke, he felt his life departing, blood flowing continuously from his mouth. He looked at Ram with tears in his eyes, repeating Ram's name over and over. Jatayu gradually became silent. His head fell to the ground, and his body slumped back. So I'm not going to read the rest, but Ram performs funeral rituals as if a human had departed. And as they're doing the rituals, they see a Vaikuntha Vimana descending and a four-armed form ascending from his body, and Jatayu ascends to the spiritual world. So then they know what direction to go. And as they're heading in that southerly direction, another surprise comes. Kabanda. Woo. And this is one painting, and here's another painting. The description of Kabanda, a giant, terrible demon, no head, arms 8 miles long. Ram and Lakshman fought, severing his great arms, and Kabanda fell to the ground. I mean, there was some chivalrous talk back and forth. He tried to put them in his mouth. Ram said to Lakshman, "Cut off his arms. That's where his strength is." So they cut off his arms, 8 miles long. Because that's how he gathered creatures and then ate them. Yummy. Kabanda. when they finished, he said, "You cut off my arms. Now, please bury me and cremate my body and bury me." So they did that. And he said, as you release me from this curse of having become Kabanda, I'll tell you how you can regain Sita. He, this angelic or celestial form rose from the body of Kabanda. He said, in my previous life, I was a Gandharva named Daru, and I made an offense to a great sage. In the heavenly realm, there was a sage named Ashtavakra. Ashta means 8. His body was bent in 8 places, and I was very beautiful, and very this and very that, and I started making fun of him, and he cursed me. "You're so proud of your beauty. You should become a disshapen demon in the earthly realm." With that curse, I got this Kadamba body. And now, by your mercy, you release me from that curse, and you'll find Sita by the help of Sugriva, who's a king who also has lost his wife, stolen by someone, and together you make friendship, and you'll find him, keep going in the southerly direction, and you'll find him by the side of Lake Pampa. And Daru took off. So now he's, like Sherlock Holmes, he's getting more clues about how to find Sita. And specifically, this celestial being is saying, friendship with Sugriva, together you will regain Sita. So he goes to Lake Pampa. There's Lake Pampa. And when he gets to Lake Pampa, much to his surprise, he finds an ascetic lady, very wonderful personality named Shabari. And Shabari, little background, there's a long story, but short because of our time. Shabari was born in a family of tribal people living in a forest. And when she got of age to be married, her father made an arrangement for her marriage by bringing many sheep and other animals to be slaughtered for the big feast for her wedding. And she was like, I'm out of here. She didn't get married. She just left. And she went searching for spiritual association, Shabari. And in the course of time, she came to the hermitage of the great sage Matanga, and he saw her sincerity, and it's kind of unusual, but he accepted her in his ashram of ascetic men because she was an ascetic lady, and there was no disturbance because of her asceticism. And she served the sage Matanga very faithfully, and as he got older, it was time for him to leave. She wanted to leave with him. So as the fire was being made, he said, no, you stay here because soon the personality of Godhead, Lord Ramachandra, is going to come to this ashram. You serve him very nicely, and then you can depart to serve the Supreme Person. Then you can depart. So every day, Shabari could maybe as today. So she went to the forest, she gathered berries,